Buenos dias, John, and thank you for joining us today at Business Spotlight Series. Today, I'm excited to introduce John Cox, Managing Director at Cox and Co. Welcome, John.
Thank you for having me, Javier. Thank you so much.
No problem. Now, John, I looked at your profile and I thought you would make a good guest at our show. I'm keen. We talked about this last week. Very keen to hear your story. How did you end up in the business you are in?
Goodness. Okay, well, if you're sitting comfortably, let me give you a very brief oversight, if you will. I've been a mortgage broker for 19 years this year. I set up a mortgage brokerage here in Edinburgh, early 2000s. Very long story short, my father was a mortgage broker. I wanted to do what my father did. I just chose not. I didn't want to work for him. Is probably the best way to put it. Set up as a self-employed property broker at the age of 23 years old, and off I went. I literally went to IKEA, bought a desk, put it into my flat, went away, got the qualifications that was needed, worked really hard at getting those exams done quite as quickly as I could, and off I went on a journey of self-employment at a very young age. I did lean on my father at the time. I handed business in via his brokerage that was in Aberdeen at the time, and did a little bit of training through his company, but very, very quickly sought out to build my own book down here in the Scottish capital here in Edinburgh. Went very, very well. You know, that first few years were quite successful for me, and 4 years into the business of running my own mortgage brokerage, I was given the opportunity to diversify into property management and lettings. I had a couple of clients that I was doing buy-to-let mortgages for, and they both asked me the same question in very quick succession. They said, "John, you've done a very good job at arranging the mortgages for our new investment properties, but who can you advise to manage these properties now that they've completed?" And I very quickly threw my hand in the air. My entrepreneurial hat went on and said, "Me, allow me to manage these properties for you." I phoned my father and said, "Look, I've got a great idea. How about we set up a letting agency together?" And that's where the second business was formed, or our third business, if you will, was formed. A letting agency that was a partnership between me and my father and my older brother. And within 2 years, that business became vatable. It became a very successful little letting agency up the east coast of Scotland. We had properties in Aberdeen, Dundee, and Edinburgh. I then couldn't help myself again. That entrepreneurial spark was igniting, and I felt that the opportunity to amalgamate my dad's brokerage, my brokerage, and the letting agency that we've just built to bring the three of them together, put the family name above the door, and to set up as a limited company. And that is essentially where Cox and Co was born. 9 years ago, officially, was when Cox and Co became into its form. And it's taken a long time since then. During that 9 years, we've had a lot of, again, amalgamations, changes, iterations, if you will, to where we are now, where essentially sitting here 2024, I now am the sole owner and managing director of Cox and Co. And what we are is essentially a one-stop shop for buyers, sellers, renters, investors of property across Scotland. We are letting agents, estate agents, mortgage brokers, and property investment specialists all under the one roof.
Brilliant. What a beautiful story. And I love the fact that you said, "I couldn't work with my dad." Same here, by the way. I couldn't work. I wanted my dad to be my dad.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, very, very nice. What is one of the main challenges you had to go through or overcome in your journey to build a business to where you have built it today?
Sure. The biggest challenge was having business partners that were our vision wasn't aligned, and that comes down to your own stage in your own business life cycle. Myself, my father, are still very close, but as business partners, we were fraught with constant conflict between the two of us because we weren't aligned. Different ages, different stages in our business life cycles. I had a genuine desire and need for diversification and growth, whereas my father was quite comfortable with what we already had, having been doing it his own way for 40 years before I came along. And butting heads with him, my older brother became part of the business, but then it became very obvious to myself and my father that he was there for a job and not there for a career. And it was a very difficult conversation to have with him as well for when he exited the business. And I suppose then to answer your question was making sure that, or trying to find a way to get everybody aligned was the biggest hurdle. And then once that did start to come together, once I then was able to essentially buy out my brother, then a few years later buy my father out of the business, allowing him to retire, I've now allowed to kick on and basically steer the ship towards my own vision, and in a lot of ways, without coming across too arrogant or overconfident. That's kind of how the business has now excelled in the last 3 years, because of that alignment is 100% there.
Yes, you hear often family and business doesn't mix. Are you still in talking terms with your brother?
Yes and no, but then friends and family don't mix with business. But then I would say that, my longest employee has been with me for 10 and a half years. And he's also my best friend of 20 years. And I was his best man and he was my best man. And I would say that works because, again, we are aligned. Although
Yes.
he's an employee of the business, he's part of the furniture here. And the business wouldn't be where it is without him being part of it with me. And a big part of that is because our business life cycles align, because our visions align, because both of us have an entrepreneurial spirit and a desire to grow something together.
Were you friends before going into business together?
Oh yeah, for 10 years.
Okay.
10 years
I know of many cases that you make friends through business.
Mm-hmm.
That's been tested, but yeah, interesting, very good.
Yeah, so he was like a brother to me before he even joined the business. So, and he's been with me from day one almost, on the journey. And so, yeah, I think it's not about doing business with family. It's not impossible.
Alignment.
I keep using that word today, but alignment is key. Absolutely, alignment is key.
On the one vision. What type of attributes do you look for when you recruit people, the members of your team? What are the attributes you look for?
First and foremost would be their personality, what they bring to the table in terms of personality. That qualifications, experience, none of that actually matters in those first couple of interviews or discussions at all. It's whether or not they will fit within this team dynamic that we've built here.
Culture fit.
Yeah, Cox and Co is, I call it a team rather than a company. We're not a family, but we are a team, and everybody needs to be able to fit within that team. They need to bring their own personality, their own drive, and people can be trained, people can learn, people can be, can adapt. But if they aren't bringing the right attributes to the team, then there's no point in having a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have company values?
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us, what are they?
Honesty, accountability, and integrity.
Very good.
We've got that written on the wall in the main office through there right now with all my staff. Honesty, accountability, and integrity.
How do you, in accountability, how do you instill accountability in the business? It's a great quality, by the way.
Yeah, sure. We run a common sense approach business. We are a team of professionals. There's no trainees. We've got no part-time members of staff. Everyone is full-time, and we're office-based. There's no remote working at Cox and Co either. I don't look at that as being old school or behind the times. I view it as our business requires collaboration on a daily basis. My letting agents need to be collaborating with my sales agents. The sales agents need to be collaborating with my in-house mortgage brokers. The mortgage team need to be collaborating every day with my property investment specialists, because every deal that we are doing for clients is multi-transactional. So it's not single transaction work that we do. So therefore, we all need to hold each other accountable. So if somebody drops the ball in the office, it could affect 3 or 4 different stages of a client's deal cycle with us. So it's really, really important that everybody in the office understands that we are all wholly accountable to each other.
Are there, in your industry, are there many rogue players out there that you need to watch out for?
Too many to count. Too many to count.
I'm in property myself, so I've seen a few,
Yeah, it's very difficult. We've been sourcing property, selling off-market property for a decade, but the amount of people that are all over LinkedIn these days calling themselves professional property investment specialists or property sourcers, it makes me sick to the pit of my stomach, Javier, how much lack of experience, but because they're good behind the camera, they seem to think they're getting business. And the amount of bad advice that's being given to people that are trying to get into property is disgusting. And at least once a week, myself or my team have to almost unbrainwash somebody who's been conned into going on a weekend property course at a Marriott in Glasgow for $9,000 on their credit card, and they come away from
Don't
that.
say the name. We all know.
Oh, we all know, and it's genuinely disgusting. And I'm very open. If any of your viewers of this podcast want to follow me on LinkedIn, they can see my videos and me openly talking about just how much it's affected letting agents, estate agents, property investment specialists, brokers. It's affected us all negatively because we're all tarred with the same brush, unfortunately.
Do you? Which part of your business is spearhead? I mean, is it all equally balanced, or there is one which you've grown bigger than the others?
Sure. So I class my business. The business has got 4 pillars. We've got property sales, we've got property lettings, we've got mortgages, and we've got property investment. But the business really, in a lot of ways, is actually a 2-pronged approach. We've got assets and operations. And assets, what I mean is sales, mortgages, and investments are bringing in money and bringing in more property, and that all then feeds into operations. It fills into the letting side of my business. So we have a large residual income coming in on a monthly basis from our property management book, and the other areas of the business help grow that residual income. So it's lovely to be in a position after all these years of hard graft to now have a residual income that almost covers the full cost of the business on a monthly basis. We're almost self-sufficient. That's the key to retirement for me, is to get the business being self-sufficient from a monetary perspective. The mortgage brokerage obviously has a client bank there of over 40 years because we amalgamated my father's book into this as well. So we're still, because we provide a good service, we've got clients who've been coming to us at a whole length of time, and therefore lots of referrals, lots of family and so on off the back of it. So our mortgage book is very, very strong as well. Sales and investments is the cream on top. That's where we really stand out, in my opinion, in the marketplace. We're very, very good at what we do. We make some good fees off that. It's great. But having the lettings book that provides a residual income, shall I say, and a very strong mortgage book of over 40 years behind it gives us that ballast, if you will, and allows us to grow. And when I do want to diversify or look at other opportunities, we're in a position that we can do that now, which where maybe 5-6 years ago we couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I like the what you put, how you call yourself, the stockbrokers for bricks and mortar.
Yeah,
stockbrokers for brick and mortar.
We're exactly that. I class myself as a wealth manager for residential property. That's exactly what I am now. I'm managing director of Cox and Co. But when I get involved with clients, I sit down, and when I'm fact finding and discussing opportunities with clients, I'm essentially doing wealth management, but for residential property.
I mean, mortgages, you can do everything on the phone, but lettings and sales, obviously, you need to travel, you need to see the property, manage it, and so on. Is it Edinburgh based or further afield?
Yeah, we cover the whole of the central belt of Scotland. So from as far east as North Berwick, right through to Paisley. That's as far west as we go. And we manage properties from Galashiels and the Scottish borders right up to Dundee.
Wow. Very good spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite a big area to cover, but we manage it well.
Yeah, very good. What are the the aspirations, your aspirations for the business for the say 5 years from now? Where do you want to be 5 years from now with the
World
business?
domination, Javier. World domination. No, not in the slightest.
What
You
does
know,
that mean?
not in the slightest. It's quite simple. I'm not building Cox and Co to sell Cox and Co. I've got absolutely no desire whatsoever to sell out to the big property groups, if you will. I want Cox and Co to remain independent. I do want Cox and Co to provide me with a retirement plan. I still to this day class myself as a business operator, and I would like to get to a point where I can become a business owner. So for me, the plan for the next 3.5 years, I had a 5-year plan, and I'm a year and a half in, is to get me to a point of being a business owner, whereby I can either step back from day-to-day operations and allow myself to do the stuff that I actually enjoy in a day. I think it's really fair to say, and maybe I'm being really overly honest, but it's not fun when who motivates the motivator, Javier? Being an MD of a small to medium enterprise, it isn't always fun. We've got a turnover of 1.5 million, but I still occasionally have to go out and buy the toilet roll. Running a business like this, it's taxing. I've got a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old at home, and I'd love to be spending a bit more time with them. Growing a business is very demanding, and I've been doing it since I was 23 years old. It's hard graft. I want to get to a point whereby I can actually maybe get back on the tools, but on my terms. I would love to own this business and be a CEO or chairman of this business, watch it grow, be a part of that journey, but dip in and see clients as and when it fits with my cycle rather than because I have to.
Yeah. Brilliant. That reminds me of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That changed my life, by the way.
Yeah. And for a lot of people it has, yeah.
Yes.
I've read it cover to cover a few times. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So along the side of books, what book have you read that you would like to share with the audience?
I'm currently going through for the second time at the moment Elon Musk's most recent biography. I don't want to be Elon Musk, just to be clear. Mad scientist. But I find it incredibly inspiring, his work ethic and his constant need and desire to increase margin, to find another way to make things work. He doesn't accept no. He's always prepared to push things that extra little mile. And yeah, he puts a lot of noses out of joint. But I find the businesses that he's managed to create, the businesses that have been, on the brink of falling apart, that he has brought back to become some of the largest firms in the world, I find him a really interesting and inspiring human. So we've had a lot of change in this business in the last 18 months. And about 2 months ago, I picked up his book for a second time, and I've actually feel like it's almost a different book. I've got a completely different perspective on it now. So the first time I read it, I was 100 miles an hour, and I was taking inspiration from it. The second time going through the book, I'm actually seeing it from a different perspective entirely and learning a little bit more about how to actually control my business and now work on growing turnover, but also increasing margin. And that wasn't what I was thinking before. I was using it almost to motivate me on a daily basis to grind. Now I'm using it as a way to refine.
Brilliant. I love that you said you're reading the book a second time. By the way, when I read a great book, I take pen and I underline, pen the corners of the pages, make notes. And there is a great book called Miracle Morning.
Okay.
And that book, it says, is better to read a book a second time than a new book.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
You're suck it in, a lot more. Interesting. Wonderful. By the way, I'm going to read that book. You sold me into it.
You have to. It was
honestly in my to-do list. So this Christmas, I'm going to get that one and go for that one. Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. It's a few times in that book you put it down and go,
yes,
how did he get away with that? Or how could you speak to somebody like that?
Yeah.
And then but when I'm a great believer of, I think when we first spoke before in the past, Javi, I think I've said to you, I get really inspired by a lot of American entrepreneurs. And the only way I can get really inspired by them is listening to them or reading their books and then digesting it and cutting out a lot of the Americanisms, if I
Yes.
can, and the BS that goes with that.
Yes.
There's a lot of learnings out there from a lot of these brash entrepreneurs that have done very well for themselves.
Yeah.
But just because I take a lot of learnings from them doesn't mean to say I want to be like them. But I think the way in which a lot of them do business is quite inspiring, insightful, and it's something that I think us in the UK, Scotland specifically, with there's a lot of pessimism and there's a lot of hiding away. There's a lot of not collaborate. There's very little collaboration in our markets in general in our country, and I think we need to collaborate more and be more open with people and be a bit brasher in business. And that's what I'm trying to focus on here at Cox and Co.
Brilliant. If you could spend a day in the life of, who would you go for?
Goodness, I wish you prepped me before this for that one.
I think okay. So it could be a living person or somebody from the past,
Yeah. No. So, and again, I hope this doesn't come across too cheesy for your podcast, but my hero growing up and still to this day, I'm 41 years old, and my hero is Arnold Schwarzenegger. I met Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was very lucky to have met him and I got a 10-minute meet and greet. We sat down together for 10 minutes and had a really interesting conversation about 6 years ago. And it was one of the best moments of my life. People say you should never meet your heroes, and I completely disagree. He has done so much in his life. People can agree or disagree or have views on people's personal lives or whatever. But what I love about Arnold Schwarzenegger is everything that he's turned his hand to, he's achieved to monumental status. When he moved to America as a late teen, he wasn't moving here to become the best bodybuilder in the world. He was moving here to become the biggest movie star ever. And as soon as he started becoming into movies, he immediately turned his attention to becoming a politician. People don't realize that he'd already planned to become a governor or a something, in his early 20s. And to go from being the best bodybuilder in the world ever to being the biggest movie star ever to then becoming a two-time governor of California, turning California into the fourth largest economy in the world as a state, not even a country, is beyond inspiring. And the amount of work that he has done on climate change around the world in the last 12 years is nothing short of exemplary for any billionaire that's out there trying to make these changes. And it's going quite unnoticed just how much graft that he's still putting in. So although he's churning out some real rubbish movies these days in his 70s, people don't actually realize how much work he's still doing in the background. I would love to have a day in his shoes and just see what he does from day one, from first thing in the morning through the end of the day, at any timeline during his life.
That's brilliant. John, by the way, he said, well, if I've been able to build my body, I had to follow a routine. I had to follow processes to build my body to be the best in the world. I'm going to transfer this to building a business. Sure. And there was a great analogy, building his body to building a business in terms of processes, determination, and so on and so forth. So great lessons to be had from that.
Commitment, discipline, desire. Things that I try and bring into what I do on a daily basis as well. 100 miles an hour. Don't give up. You get on to the next task.
Which brings me to the book of Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Have you read that one?
I haven't read that one, no.
Well, it goes along those lines, this one here. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
And there are two ingredients, for success. By the way, rich means whatever you want to make it, Think and Grow, successful, rich, and so on. Great book. But anyway, he just reminded me of it.
Amazing.
Brilliant. Well, John, it's been a real pleasure to have you part of our show and for sharing, being so open and honest, It's good and so authentic.
I genuinely, again, it goes back to our three principles: honesty, accountability, and integrity. I live by it. I genuinely live by it.
It shows,
I'm an open book. My team are the same. And I've built my business around it and my personal life around it. And
Yes.
I'm a great believer of spending time with good people, whether that be in business or away from business.
Yeah.
And the only way that's going to work is if you're really honest with people. So I've thoroughly enjoyed being a part of this. Thank you so much. It's been great getting to know you as well. And obviously, if any of your listeners would ever want to reach out to me, they can contact me on LinkedIn or
we'll put
give
your
me a follow.
website address in the when we publish this. Brilliant.
Please, I'd be delighted. I'd be delighted.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.